all the guys have been on the podcast, and all of them said you're never going to be on the podcast. But I'm going to ask you anyways. And he wrote back immediately, who said I wouldn't be on the podcast?
You got him.
And I'm like, okay, so you want to do this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, like, what's your schedule look like? Because usually I schedule these out 2 or 3 weeks, and then I do a ton of research. And with Scott, I already had the research done, but usually I have some lead time. And he's like, how about in 30 minutes?
I don't think I had heard this.
And because I'm on winter break from school, so my schedule's wide open, and I'm like, sure. And so we dive into this interview, and wild horses could not have drawn answers out of Scott that day. I tried everything. I tried talking to him about bow hunting and all fishing, nothing. He just was not having it. All right, what's going on, everybody? It is the Stable Cyclist Awards show, end of the year extravaganza, and I brought in my good friend Aaron, who you have not seen. I guess you showed up on the emergency pod for the Matahe, but he is going to help kind of co-host tonight the final show of 2025.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, Stable Cyclist Podcast brought to you by Flow Formulas, who are on board for 2026. And if you've got a big race like I do coming up in 2026, you can use code JohnPeter15 at checkout. And a whole bunch more sponsors coming on board in 2026, which means it's been a good year, Aaron.
That's awesome. You bet it has, John. All right, let's get this thing started off. Our first award that we are going to go to start off the show is going to be the longest episode, John.
Well, the longest episode this year goes to the one and only Chris Melman. And if you're listening, I'm holding up papers that say the award winner on it that I just wrote on with a Sharpie. Chris Melman is the award winner. He, of course, is known most this year for his third place finish at Badlands in Spain. He is an ultra distance racer. I guess when you go along in the event, then you're going to go along on the podcast. I think we went for an hour and 45 minutes.
And for me, what I've realized is I can be a lot more relatable to people. So maybe riding 500 miles isn't relatable, but the reason I do this and the reason I ride is very relatable. I just like riding my bike. That's why I do these races. And those races themselves, everyone's going there to finish. Like, I don't care what you say. I mean, I went to Badlands to finish that race, and it wasn't the result that felt good. Same with Trocca 560. It just felt good finishing. And it's one of those few areas of cycling where you can go in and be like, everyone feels good about finishing.
And that episode came out just a few weeks ago. It is a dandy. In it, Chris also goes off about the Gravel Earth series and how it is scheduled. So if you want a little bit of controversy, you can go find it there. But Chris has an amazing story, honestly, and we dive deep into the difficulties of nighttime racing and doing those ultra distance events and what it's like to do sleep deprivation and all the things that I'm terrified of. So there you go.
Sleep deprivation not recommended with bipolar, last I checked.
No, and it is a lot of people thought for sure I was going to go do the dam next year, day across Minnesota. We had even talked about filming at it, and ultimately I am really happy we're not, because I was genuinely terrified of what sleep deprivation would do to me personally with bipolar. And so instead, we've got a totally different and safe adventure planned, or safe from a bipolar standpoint. So you're going to learn more about that in the coming year. What do we got next, Aaron?
The second award tonight. Every once in a while on the show, there's a swear or two. But we had one specific episode this year that I think the bleep button may have broke. And what was it?
It indeed did break. Most swears with 121, including a record 88 F-bombs. Setting the bar high was Bradley Huff.
To this day, I wish I had reached out for help. Yeah. But I put horse blinders on myself in every way because I could control it. because of that little Brad that went out into the farm and sought play to find stability in his life. I found that freedom on the bicycle, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it away from me. And I was scared of.
Yep.
I was scared of looking at the light that I actually had, you know. And there's being in the Bible Belt. There's this little song. It's this little light of mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it shine. I wasn't going to let anyone blow it out, and I was scared that would happen. And so I just held on to it, and I put on a show.
Yeah.
You know, and my performances were my show. My workouts were my show. This image, this rolling billboard across the world was the show.
I had been really excited to talk to Brad. We'd been interacting for quite a while on social about mental health stuff. And I think we were just so stoked to get the conversation going. I hit record. We were into the conversation, and we were like 15 minutes in, and I thought to myself, you know, that at the beginning, pull the curtain back here. Most episodes, I try and tell people, hey, we're going to try not to swear. But if you do, that's okay. I'll just bleep it out. And I realized 15 minutes into this episode, I forgot to tell this to Brad, and we're at least 20 F-bombs in at this point, and I'm just going to let him go. And so I just put a disclaimer on the front of the episode. Insanely powerful episode, like very open about mental health. And so, yeah, I no apologies on this end. I did tell my mom, do not listen to that episode. It's like when my friend Paul, who's the sound man for Tyler, the Creator, was on, and I was like, Mom, do not search Tyler, the Creator. So similar situation with the Brad Huff episode.
Oh, that's wisdom. That is wisdom. Yeah, Brad, really, really, really good interview. And also, once you're in, you can't just be like, oh, yeah, we shouldn't swear. Let's start over. Like, no, that would have
made for an amazing, like, midpoint of the conversation, you know, an abrupt face. And I was just like, no, we can't do that. Like, just keep rolling.
It's not, is it the only one with an explicit tag? There might be one or two others, but it earned it.
Yeah, it's the only one that I've had to put like a disclaimer on the front. Usually we just bleep things out if it's 2 or 3. The Spratt brothers had an amazing like outburst in their episode that we'll talk about later, but that was easily covered versus like I'm not bleeping out 121 swear words.
Yes. Next producer can do that. Okay, coming up next. JP's worst interview of the year.
All right. This is not necessarily a reflection of who I'm interviewing. All right. My worst male interview of the year, by far, Scott McGill of the Bonk Bros. He was the final Bonk Bro that I had not interviewed, and all the guys had told me, you're never going to get Scott to do an interview. So I DM him like over Christmas break last year. And I said, like, because I'm trying to coax him out here.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, all the guys have been on the podcast, and all of them said, you're never going to be on the podcast. But I'm going to ask you anyways. And he wrote back immediately, who said I wouldn't be on the podcast?
He got him.
And I'm like, okay, so you want to do this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, like, what's your schedule look like? Because usually I schedule these out 2 or 3 weeks, and then I do a ton of research. And with Scott, I already had the research done, but usually I have some lead time. And he's like, how about in 30 minutes?
I don't think I had heard this.
And because I'm on winter break from school, so my schedule's wide open, and I'm like, sure. And so we dive into this interview, and like wild horses could not have drawn answers out of Scott that day. I tried everything. I tried talking to him about bow hunting and all fishing. Nothing. He just was not having it. A lot of people loved the episode though, and everybody said, "Oh, it wasn't that awkward." On the female side, this was 100% me. This interview came out at the end of November or middle of November. I interviewed Hannah Shell, who I kind of had interacted with through friends and different things. And I get to do the interview, and I'm all ready. And it was just, I was really clunky for like 15 minutes. And it's one of those things where like the more clunky you are, like the worse you get. And I'm just more awkward as the interview goes. And partly because I knew deep down, I wanted to, like, I always have like a hard question I know I want to get to, and I'm trying to get to it. And the question I want to talk about is like identity growing up as a tall female. And like I talk about this in the episode. My wife is 6 feet tall, and she was a college volleyball player, and is very self-conscious about the fact that she's a 6 foot tall female athlete. And I know that we've both worked with a lot of girls in our time with coaching high school athletics who like super conscious about body and all that, and body image and everything that comes with it. And so anytime I'm interviewing a female and I know they'll talk about it and I know that we can get to that, I'm really anxious to do it because I think it offers insight to a ton of dads who are listening that like might have a tall, athletic, awesome daughter and they don't quite know how to give her advice or help her. So I'm really trying to get to this question. They're like, there's no not awkward way to dive into it. And thankfully she kind of brought it up, and from there we like eased into like things and it was better. But for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, I was just like, I'm murdering this interview right now with her. So anyways, I will apologize to Hannah in person when I see her next time.
All right, on to the next one. We have the most off the rails episode, male version.
And this is just for everybody.
Oh, this is for everybody.
I don't have
all right.
I mean,
beautiful.
I mean, Holy Spirit might win the award for.
It was a roller coaster.
It was a roller coaster, but by far the most off the rail episode of the season goes to Marc and Nathan Spratt, who I decided, under the like guidance of Trey Shepard, who is also a co-host in that episode, to have the twin Spratt brothers on at the exact same time. And it was the closest thing we've ever done to a Bonk Bros episode. And it was a good time. And then, of course, Trey kept bringing up things from high school that they did together that like just crashed the train even more. So you're doing, before we get to that, you were on AliExpress bikes for a while?
Forever.
Oh yeah,
That's all they rode.
basically from our
Tell me more.
Not just AliExpress bikes, but custom painted with, oh god, like Norwal or something.
not
on it.
wrong.
Yeah, I don't know why, but
It was just kind of just like random, picking a name kind of thing. But basically, the end of our triathlon career into our first years cycling, and I guess really all of the road racing we did was all on just Chinese carbon AliExpress bikes, baby. It was our like poor college days.
Yeah, there's no judgment here. I like stories, so I was along for the ride, even though I was trying to like guide things.
Right.
And I'm sure people were unhappy that I didn't let Trey ask more questions, but we're trying to keep it on the tracks.
They can do that in a different episode if they need to. Okay, one of the questions at the end of every interview deals with gas station food and nutrition, for lack of a better word. And so, the gas station hack that you have picked up on throughout this year.
Yeah, that's a great question, because there have been a lot of good gas station food listed. Sometimes, like things I would never get in my life, like, cucumber lime flavored Gatorade, which like they're never going to have that at the Elizabeth General Store. Come on. What are we doing? But Celine Yeager is the winner because she introduced me. This was like a drug dealer move. She introduced me to.
Hopefully they have a iced coffee of some sort. It could be anything. It could be one of the ones you get like, I'll settle for a Monster coffee-ish. I'd rather not. I'd rather it be like a real Starbucks cold brew. If they have it, that's a luxury. That's great. But I'll take whatever like iced coffee kind of thing they can have. And Payday. I have done many rides on Paydays. Yeah. Many rides on Paydays.
So I'll trust her on this one.
Yeah, it hits the spot. And they do have it at the Elizabeth General Store, which has kind of become the gold standard for what this gas station stop needs to be.
Oh, I can picture it, so that's good for me. Okay. Gas stations aside, music gets discussed also at some point during every interview. And both of us as teachers tend to play a fair amount of music. So talk about the music influence that has most impacted you from throughout the last year?
Yeah. I would say there are 3 people on this list. The first one is, this is so weird how these guys influenced me. Because I'm pretty like set on the bike, what I listen to, but Ian Boswell talked about like,
oddly, I listen to a lot of like cowboy western music. Yeah, that's pretty much all I listen to. Actually, my wife goes crazy. Even if I'm doing like hard efforts or going for a KOM, I'm listening to like cowboy music.
Name some artists for us here.
Dave Stammy, he's a guy from out in California. You should check him out. He's actually coming to play a barn party at our house for the Fondo this year. It's like a dream come true. So Dave, Towns Van Zandt. It's a bunch of like just random. You probably would hear of none of them, but if you go to my Spotify, I could send you the link of cowboy tunes.
So then I started listening to it. And then I would do dumb things like I would play the Wild Again song and I would hit the station button. Like, I just play me this station, and I'd listen to it for like 4 hours, and I would be like, "What the hell is wrong with me?" But I couldn't turn it off. So Ian Boswell, this is so impactful what you've done. The second one is Justin McQuerry talked about what is the song you're pumping into the jukebox to sing for all of us.
Ooh, this is gonna be very off base based on my former music answers, but it's gonna be the Man from Waco by Charlie Crockett.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Which is a banger.
Yeah.
And again, I'll like go out. I did this on Sunday. I went out for 3 hours on Sunday. When we're recording this, I went out for a 3-hour ride and I hit the Man from Waco, and then I just hit the station button and let it go. And it plays like songs like Juanita by and like all these other songs that are just like, where have I landed? And real good stuff. And then the third person who really influenced me was Joe Gettle said, I need to have a go to the well mix for on my interval days. And he's like, and I had a mix before that had some like bangers in it, but
like Muse bangers.
Yeah, like Muse, Under Oath, like all the heavy stuff. Like, we got real work to do here.
Yeah.
We need to, find the true anger within us. Right. But I did not have it named Go to the Well. And so now whenever I get ready to, really hit it, I hit that, and I think of Joe Gettle. So,
do you play it in the same order every time, or is there a shuffle button involved?
On the Go to the Well mix, always shuffle.
Okay, because I can picture like going to the Well high school football version. I'm hitting the CD, and I know track 1 is this, and track 2 is this, and it was very precise.
Track 1 was probably, I can just guess, it was probably Enter Sandman, and then it was probably Thunderstruck, and then it was probably like Until It Sleeps, or like, it's just, I can go through the Metallica and AC/DC list.
It was a lot of that. There was a Attila Collapse Eminem showing, and Remember the Name from Fort Minor. But other than that, it's like 3 Days Grace, Metallica. It's all in the same vein. And excellent stuff.
All right.
Okay, next one. Most impactful male story.
Yeah, the most impactful male story this year, I thought, based on the comment section and based on the amount of DMs I got, was Kerry Werner.
The divorce, and then the whole like trying to figure out who I am like in that time, because my whole life from 18 or 19 until the like January 1st of 2024, I was a professional cyclist. Like, that's what I did. And so then like, I lost, my partner who I was with for 11 years, like over a third of my life at this point. And now I lost like my job. So it was a pretty tough time to figure out. And like, we were talking before this call, I only really feel like I actually started kind of feeling normal, like more like myself again in the last like month or two. So it's been a process.
Kerry Werner was super open about what it was like to go through a divorce and lose his job within a couple month period of time and how hard that was, and just very open about what it meant to rebuild his life and what that looked like. And there were so many men who texted and just said, thank you for asking somebody to come on and talk about this. And of course, Kerry's like the most, I mean, you've seen my Kenny Werner shirt that I got with his, like, the mullet shirt. Like, he's the most screw around guy there is. And for him to sit down and be really serious and share his story in that way was so impactful to so many men who I know either were coming off of a job loss, going through divorce, or both. And that's, I mean, ultimately, that's the kind of stuff that you and I talk about. Like, that's why I do the podcast, to share stories that really help people's lives and move them forward. And so on the men's side, that's who I identified.
Yeah, it was, if you haven't listened to it, or even if you have, it's a great listen. And when people are going through stuff, like, it's relatable, because we all are going to have it at some point. So switching to the female side, which female story was most impactful in your eyes?
Yeah, for sure it was Kait Boyle. I had a lot of really good conversations with a lot of amazing women doing cool stuff. Crystal Kovacs comes to mind. That was an in-person at Unbound I got to have. And she's someone who I interact with since then on a regular basis about what they're doing. But Kait Boyle's story, for me, it was impactful because it was so, like, not similar, but like we had a lot to relate to. We both have gone through like catastrophic accident that made us really examine, like, can I even ever ride my bike again?
I'm going to recover from this. That's the first win, because like I've already wondered if I'd recover from something. And the last thing I need to do is to put myself in a place where I'm compromising all that.
Yeah.
And not just like my own work, but like what so many people have given to make it possible.
Yeah.
For me to have that.
Yeah.
And then the other part was like, sorry,
You're good.
My husband just said something, Will, like that day, I think, it must have been the next day because I stopped racing at 1 a.m. Like, I just want to be able to go skiing together when we're like in our 70s.
Yeah.
And that just means like, I want that more than anything too.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so that has been like a guiding, that concept of like me and Will be able to ski 30 something years from now has been this guiding like marker since then of like,
Sure.
Is what I'm doing still sustainable? Because ultimately, like, no bike race is worth like compromising that.
Yeah.
Or giving that possibility up.
Yeah.
And so that has been really, really helpful in just having this like identity or just kind of value or goal and vision in my life that's like beyond what I'm trying to do personally on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Or even as an athlete.
So for those that have, or those who have somebody around them who are going through it, I think it's hugely important to be able to just hear somebody who's gone through it and talk, and then see the success on the other side, and see that it took like 9 years for her to like really, really hit it out of the park again. And it takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And your story obviously is well documented too, but to be not off a bike for over a year, but pretty close to off a bike in your words, that's for sure. Like, it just takes so long until you, are symptom free for good and starting to work back into things for real. So, most downloaded male episode.
Well, that one was simple. Dylan Johnson took the early lead on that one, and he never looked back. Well over 20,000 downloads this year on his episode, and that's just on YouTube. It's quite a few more if you throw in all the audio platforms. But
I think I told you, like, I'm not a person who's very prone to depression, but obviously if a significant life event like that happens, I think anybody anybody is prone to depression at that point. And I was honestly like, I've never felt, I don't think I've had a worse 2 weeks emotionally than that lead up to Mid-South, I'm going to be honest. And just to give you an idea of how bad it was, I lost 6 pounds in a week. And then May is the month before Unbound, and honestly, in May, I didn't feel amazing in May either. And I think I talked a little bit about this on Instagram, but that Unbound block is just a really insane amount of riding. 35 hours of riding in the first week, 40 hours of riding in the second week. But I really honestly felt like doing that block was, I felt like it almost like pulled me out of a rut, because I was spending so much time riding my bike. And honestly, for a long time, I felt like when I was riding my bike, that was the only time that I was happy, because if I wasn't riding my bike, I was at home, and my home is where both of us lived for so long, and it's just too many memories. And then I'd get out on the bike and I'd kind of escape it for a while. And, when you're spending 40 hours in a week escaping, it's like you actually can escape it.
He's known as a guy who usually comes on and talks about really robotic stuff like training and analytics and all good stuff. But in this case, we talked about kind of how do you move on from a relationship breakup and how hard that is. And again, I got a lot of feedback from people that really found that helpful, moving on in their life from whatever they're struggling with. So that was the male most downloaded of the year.
All right. And how about the most downloaded for female episode of the year?
The most downloaded female of the year is Holy Spirit of Gravel. In a wild episode that was wide-ranging. I think she drank 2 Coronas during it, and I was criticized in the comments for only drinking 1 Coke. I believe she was criticized by her mother for drinking Coronas in the podcast. It was a great conversation and just a good chance to meet her.
I do think it makes you a little more well-rounded, and shows that the things that you think are serious or that matter isn't necessarily for everyone else. It's just it's crazy too that the main the main arena for this sport is in bum Iowa or Kansas or Nebraska or something, and then you have all these people flying into O'Hare, renting cars and going to I don't know. It's quite amusing. Honestly, there's certain people, I think, not unlike what you're doing, but I think there's stories out there that can be serviced by a different kind of perspective and highlighting. I wish there was more stuff from the women, more docu-series type stuff, more insight into what they do, not because I think it has more value inherently than a man's story, but I just don't see enough of it. And so I want to see some of that.
Well, and to go back to a 2012 term, to have a meme lord on a podcast, it's going to be hard hitting. And she was incredible. And it was as much of a roller coaster as I expected when you told me she was coming on. It was so great.
Yep. That would also rank as my biggest follow of the year. And my Instagram has grown leaps and bounds over the last 12 months. But I remember when I got followed by the Holy Spirit of Gravel, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I think I've made it. And then I didn't know it was a girl at the time. So I posted it, and she had said, do you want me to come on your podcast and do a admin reveal?
Right.
And I was like, holy he listens to the podcast. And still didn't know it. I'm talking to some rando dude from Texas, right?
Right.
And then Chase saw me. I ran into Chase, and he goes, it's a girl. Do you know the whole? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, I'm riding on the road. I think there's a Valley of Tears. And he said, some lady in a yellow raincoat just yells, "The Holy Spirit of gravel says hello." And he said, I almost crashed my bike. I whipped around so hard and realized like that was a girl. Like, that's a girl running that account. So anyway, yeah, it's been a wild ride. Somebody who I would call a friend. Like we bounce ideas in the podcast world off of each other quite often. And and the people obviously loved the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I do have some breaking news about a new exciting gravel series in the Midwest kicking off this year. Chase Wark is hosting the North Star Gravel Series, which is 4 events of varied disciplines in the gravel world spread across 6 months' time. And best of all, there is a $10,000 payout that'll be split across the top 10 of the men and women in that series if you are able to complete all 4 events. And everything gets kicked off with Granny's Gravel Grinder in May. That falls on May 2nd. That is followed by the Hot Dish on June 13th and 14th, a 2-day event in Winona, Minnesota. The Day Across Minnesota is August 1st, and the Filthy 50 is October 10th. Registration for the North Star Gravel Series will open January 1st. Now, the registration for the individual events will not open until the 3rd, or in the case of the Filthy 50, it doesn't open until in June. And so if you want to get your spot, and these races will sell out because they did last year, especially the Day Across Minnesota. If you want to have your spot in the series, you can get it on January 1st. Go ahead and get registered. All 4 races, total cost for registration, if you register all at the same time, is $345 total. That is the same cost or cheaper than racing at Unbound in a single event. Guarantee your spot, like I said, for all the events by registering at bikereg.com. I will have a link in the description below if you're interested in checking that out. And as I said, the North Star Gravel Series is here. It is put on by Chase Wark, and his events do not disappoint. So if you are into gravel racing and you want to go on a wild adventure throughout Minnesota, across the entire state during the year, the North Star Gravel Series is for you. Check it out in the link today.
All right, let's move on. We're going to go to your favorite episode of the year. And I don't know, is this going to be like your favorite interview, the most impactful storytelling, however you want to qualify this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have 3 that just like stick.
I wrote down 4.
Wow,
so
okay.
I'll narrow it down.
No, you can say all 4. I have 3 when I think about these were my favorites. These are the ones I keep coming back to. That, you know, either they are like have gotten to be real friends because of the conversation, it was that impactful, or I have looked at it and said I would like to continue to storytell in some way. The first interview in my list is Bobby Wintle. I interviewed him in person at Merchant Cycles in Emporia during Unbound Week. How we ended up in that situation is ridiculous. It was Chase. People had told me for a long time, you need to interview Bobby Wintle. And I said, I know I want to interview Bobby Wintle, but I think it's going to be a highly emotional conversation. I think it's going to be a conversation where we need to hug when we're done, and we're probably going to both cry a bunch during it.
Another thing is that, dude, since I got here on Monday, and since other people have started showing up, like industry people and some athletes, they've been looking me dead in the face, like dead serious, and just saying, hey, how are you? And I didn't know I needed to hear that. But even yesterday, man, people were just like, hey, are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, no, actually. And thank you for seeing me, and thank you for being worried about me, and thank you for checking on me. So like anybody that did that this weekend, thank you. I that is a whole nother piece of the puzzle that I didn't know I needed.
Well, and this is why, like, I was talking on the show about, like, we got to tell people we love them. We got to check in on people, because sometimes the only way they know there's something wrong is if they recognize, like, you are loved. Like, so.
And the only way we're going to get through it is if the people
together.
Yeah. And if people, like, ask us how we're doing.
Yeah.
and truly let you say, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah,
And I've said this at Mid-South so many times, like, it's okay to not be okay. We have to stop pretending like we're okay. We're not. I'm not okay. Things are hard. Life is hard. We're all trying to live an authentic life. We're all trying to pay our bills. We're all trying to, put on a face.
All true. All those things happen. I think both of us cried like 3 times in the interview, and I think that we for sure hugged when we were done, and it was a really incredible chat and very emotional. And I went to the places in the mental health that we needed to talk about. I went to the places with Mid-South that we needed to talk about, which I knew was going to draw emotion. And so I had said forever, I will only do that conversation in person. And Chase Wark happens to know Bobby fairly well because of the Mega Mid-South this year. And he said, well, I'll get it all connected. So he texted Bobby the week before, and 100 mile an hour Bobby was like, yeah, let's do it. We'll do it at this time. Merchant Cycles. Boom. Okay. Backstory. Bobby co-owns Merchant Cycles with a couple other people. And he said, well, we'll just go to Merchant at like 7 in the morning. Or maybe we were in there like 6:30. It was really early.
And then that is where I became the lead singer of my very first band. It was called Lesbian
Come on through,
Gunfire.
Yuri.
Yeah, come on through. Yeah, I don't know. This is perfect. I can't believe you're up. Yeah. That's what he said.
That was the opening question.
Did you go to sleep? Yes, I actually did. So then, boom, that's when I became the lead singer of Lesbian Gunfire, my first band.
It's the week of Unbound. Merchant opens at like 6:30, and 1,000 people come in there who need their bikes worked on or just want to hang out because it's like the hip shop to come to. Yeah. And so as we're having this interview, I'm not kidding, 200 people must have walked through the shot where we had the camera set up, because we just kept waving. Logan, my guy who was shooting camera that day, he just kept waving everybody through. Yuri Hushwald walks through like 3 times. Dog cusses us every time. He's one of the other co-owners. He's like, Bobby, did you not know we were going to be here this? And Bobby's like, I don't know, man. This is good coffee, right? So it was just a really like memorable experience. And again, it was very emotional, like just very connected experience. Okay, so that's one.
Number one. Okay. Number 2.
My number 2, I gotta look at my sheet here. Oh, my number 2 is Spencer Martin. Okay. Now, half of the people listen to this stuff and it's all gravel. They're like, who is Spencer Martin? Okay. Spencer Martin runs the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. He is the producer for We Do, which is Lance's podcast. If you watched the Move podcast during the tour, like the live podcast afterwards with Bradley Wiggins and Lance and George Hincapie, Spencer's the one producing that. And so I knew that Spencer was kind of like a super nerd from listening to his podcast, and that he and I could geek hardcore on bike stuff, especially 2000s and beyond. And so I just had him on the pod mainly because I want to talk to him. And he is legit a guy that has gotten to be a friend. And we message about road bike geekery and stuff like that all the time. We message about podcast stuff when I'm just like, hey, I've never navigated this. Can you help me? And he helps me out all the time. Spoke on the phone to him on the way here tonight. It is a real friendship. It was just a fun episode. And until Chris Melman came along, it was the longest interview of the year. It was an hour and 42 minutes.
And really from there, it's all I wanted to do. Then my problem with college was well, all I want to do is ride the bike. Well, I would come home from class and watch all right, I would work my way from 1995 to present, the seasons. I would buy those world tour. What was that? World Cycling Productions.
Yeah, I had World Cycling. I have a whole bunch of them. And in my basement still. And my wife would be like, I think we can throw these out. And I'm like, no, we can't. No. She's like, we don't even have a DVD player to watch one. I'm like, but I need to be able to watch the 2008 Giro.
They're not reprinting these, honey. You don't understand.
It was so good.
And and it was so good, right? There's not really any let up in the conversation at any point. We just keep falling down these wormholes. So that one was memorable. And then, like I said, the Kait Boyle episode was really impactful for me, just to hear somebody say things, about she talks a lot in there about, at some point you have to just realize I can't ever be that person again. That person is broken and gone and I never get to be them again. Mm-hmm. like that sentence and those ideas resonated so heavy with me in my climb out of the bipolar hole. You know, like there is a point that people will see in the Back to the Start documentary in 2021 in the fall where it's been a full year. Like it's been a full year since I got diagnosed. I'm going through therapy. Everything's pretty good. And I'm out on my bike and I have this realization that like, why can't I just be that guy again? Like, I just want to be him. And that realization, like, you can never be him again because that guy's going to kill you, right? And that guy, like, he's gone. And if you want to be a good dad and a good parent, like, you have to find this new version of you and, like, this evolution. So, like, her telling that story was, like, the most relatable thing I had anybody say to me all year at, like, the deepest, dark core of my own personal story. So that's why Kait Boyle is in the list of 3. How about you?
So I said I wrote down 4. Spencer was one of mine.
Okay.
Like my originating in cycling was road racing. And still like I actually in the weirdest turn of my life, if you would have told me this even 4 years ago, but I pulled up live stream of Outbound this year for like 20 minutes. First off, the fact that there is such a thing is amazing.
Yep.
And like I wasn't bored. I was like, this is incredible. So I'll watch anything. But so like I originated in road racing, and so Spencer was great. Like the names that I heard are like, I haven't heard these names in 10 years, or like unless I see a Hejadal poster at your house, like I don't get to see that. Like, and so that was great. And Stetina kind of was the same for me. Like, so I wrote both of them down because like to me that's like, oh, this is going back to road racing.
They were all team leaders, and I was kind of like the first domestique to get back up to there. I was kind of like the best of the rest, so to speak, on the climbing. So I got to the bottom, and yeah, like you said, DeGent was ringing alarm bells at this point. It was like, oh crap, like this is dangerous. So I just went to the front and started time trialing because there was no one else to do it, you know. And Ryder, I got basically caught up to Ryder. I was like, "What do you need? Do you need a gel?" And he's like, "Get to the front, you know, just go." And you know, I started riding and trying to limit the losses, but you know, DeGent was on a steamroller up ahead, and I remember they called Christian back. They said, "Christian, drop out of the break. You got to come help save this race too." So Christian sat up out of the break and gave up his chance at a stage win, and because he could have just sat on DeGent and then really climbed, you know. But when Christian got back there, I had already been time trialing for a good, you know, 15K or something. And, you know, at one point I dropped back to get bottles for Ryder and Christian and then came back up and continued. And so when Christian got there, he started to rotate with me. And I just told him, like, I'm already effed. Like, I'm going to be torched anyway. Like, you got to save your legs for the climb. And I'm just going to finish the valley.
Stettner tells killer stories about getting Hejadal that Giro win in that interview.
Yes.
Which is the only reason I really like.
Right.
Sorry, Pete, but like I really wanted to talk to you about that. Like I wanted you to tell me Giro 2010, 2012 stories. Yeah.
And oh man, just to hear recordings of Ryder Hejadal, and it's like, oh, this is so good. So those two were road racing stuff. Early in the year, I think it was like mid-January, the episode dropped at least. Andrew Vontz, I think is his name, and it was all sleep, and that was so applicable, not necessarily to me in my life, but in like coaching.
I think when it comes to rest and recovery products, what people have noticed is like, number one, if you talk to sleep scientists, they'll tell you the sleep score that you're getting from a Whoop or an Oura Ring or a Garmin watch, that's something that they're just making up. They control the algorithm. They're not telling you how they do it. The sleep staging information that these devices give you it's wildly variable and inaccurate at best. And sleep scientists will also tell you that what they regard as the gold standard is how you perceive and rate your own sleep. So how JP rates his sleep on a 1 to 10 scale last night, that's actually what they regard as the gold standard metric and the truth.
And like the kids, they know they're just going to get hammered. Like, How do you feel today? Not great. How'd you sleep last night? First question. And the second question is nutrition stuff always. And it's like, and they just know. And so like to hear that and then to send out like the app to a couple former athletes and be like, hey, have you guys tried this? Like, our coaches talk about us sleeping all the time. Like, oh, okay. So that was awesome. It was interesting and just different.
Yeah.
I really like that.
He is the co-host with Spencer on the Beyond the Peloton podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a wild time, let me tell you.
Yeah, correct. Correct. But I think my actual favorite was it Ted King, I think, and Chase talking about Mid-South.
Our alarm was set for 4:30 in the morning to get Laura to the airport, and it was soon thereafter, call it 4:45. She's like, hey, did you know Chase is doing it? And I think I just sort of groaned because I was like, this is why I kind of wanted to wait to announce it. I don't know, not to say I wanted to do it selfishly solo, but yeah, I was like, son of a nutcracker, come on. That said, like, come the first pedal stroke and for the subsequent 300 miles, it kept me on my toes because it didn't take too much. It didn't take too many miles to realize that things are going smoothly. I'm going to be able to get the FKT so long as things are going smoothly. So, yeah, knowing Chase is chasing me keeps me honest, keeps me going. Knowing Chase is he's fast in the worst of times.
Don't hold it back.
He's fast in the worst of times. You could be riding a Huffy and you're going to be fast. So then put him on a disc wheel and aero bar. Like, I know he's going full tilt aero dork. So I'm just like, man, this is tough. I need to stay on the gas.
The storytelling and like just the terrible stuff, but like the weekend that happened because of that, like it was terrible and awesome. Yeah. And that's my favorite.
Okay, right on. Yeah, that was a wild one to try and kind of like, anytime you have more than one person.
Yeah.
Especially if they're in a different location.
Right.
Like it's like trying to like pick up a greased watermelon. Like
right.
So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What do we got next, Aaron?
All right, we're going to do some rapid fire questions because as you get to ask them, there's many of us who listen and you're like, I wonder what John would answer to this. And having been around you, I'm going to know some answers, but also I'm not going to know all of the answers. So we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit.
Well, this is kind of like a timestamp because I feel like we did the music question a year ago in this room.
That is correct because we both talked about Taylor Swift.
Yes, we did.
The number of times we say that, at some point the algorithm will hit. Eventually it will. We were just talking about that in class today, actually. Anyways, so the JP's gas station question. You're on a long ride. You're tapped. Okay, and maybe it's in Elizabeth.
Yeah,
that you stop.
of course it's in Elizabeth.
Okay, we've gone through the hills of Earhart.
Yeah,
we're coming into Elizabeth.
Leaf Mountains.
Yeah,
call them by their real name.
Okay, possibly the answer is iced coffee, but what are you picking up from the gas station?
Iced coffee's good, but honestly, if we're at Earhart General and I know how hard I've been riding usually at this point, and I know what I've got in front of me to get home, we're getting a Coke that I might drink before we get to the cash register. We're getting a Red Bull that's going to go in one of my bottles. We're going to get a Snickers, and we're going to get like 2 bottles of water. Like just big bottles of water. And I might, like, if I have brought my own mix, right? Like if I'm going to be dorky Dylan Johnson and I'm just going to bring my own stuff. Okay. If I bring my own mix, I'm just getting water. If I don't bring my own mix, I'm getting Gatorade and I'm throwing them in there. The other thing I'm going to get is I'm going to in Earhart General, you walk back past through this like opening into like this taxidermy area where they also sell like motor oil and weird stuff. And you get the 5-pound bag of ice. And I already shared this on the Spratt Brothers episode, but I'm going to share it again. The hack with the 5-pound bag of ice, you start by filling all your bottles with that first. So every bottle has ice in it, even though it's probably going to melt, right? Wow. You got to start cold again. And then you take the bag and you like tie up the top of it and you poke a hole in the bottom, like with your finger.
Yeah.
And you make sure that tie is there and you shove it down the back of your jersey so you can tug on the the tie that you just made, so that as you're going down the road, it'll start to just slink down into your back. Well, you don't want that. You want to pull it up on your neck and keep your neck nice and cold. But that thing will last like an hour and a half of the 2-hour rest of the way home, and you've got like a never-ending ice sock that's just cooling you off constantly. It is the greatest discovery I made this summer. It was like 100 degrees one day when I was training, getting ready for the Mater, trying to do all the heat training and all that. And I was like, I am going to die. And I did that. And I like, all of a sudden my power was back to being awesome. And I was like, what is going on here? So yeah, that's the hack at Earhart or at Elizabeth General.
Perfect.
I know at Earhart General, you can buy like ammunition, even though it's a tiny gas station.
And bait.
Yeah. And bait. So crosses all the boxes off.
Correct.
Okay.
Moving on. Let's talk about music. So you have a wide variety of taste, and your guests have had a wide variety of taste. And there is potentially a playlist out there, an all-encompassing Stable Cyclist playlist.
It will likely be showing up on social media in the next day or two.
Beautiful. So what things are you contributing to this?
Honestly, there has, other than on like Go to the Well Day that we already talked about, right? And that's like all over the place. It's a lot of Muse, really heavy stuff, really a lot of Under Oath. Metallica's in there, of course. And so that's obviously in there. But like if I'm just riding around and I want music a lot of times, the album that I have not, like, I'm going to get hate in the comments for this. Like more than when I said Taylor Swift. The album I cannot stop listening to is the new Linkin Park album, From Zero. Like I don't remember when I found it, like in the spring, the algorithm just fed it to me and I was like, this sounds like Chester singing, but not quite. And everything else about it sounds like Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And you might be like, how did you not know they put out a new album? Okay. This is one of those weird like mental health stories. And like, I hope I can encourage some people. I stopped listening to Linkin Park when I got diagnosed with bipolar.
Explain.
Yeah, obviously. I was a huge Linkin Park fan. Like, obviously. Like, came out my senior, like, going into college, right? Senior year to freshman year of college, Hybrid Theory comes out. It is, whether or not you agree with this, like number wise, it is one of the highest performing albums ever in rock and roll. So I was a fan even through the bad years, you know, like in the like mid 2010s when it was just like, guys, what are you doing? And then One More Light came out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would not get diagnosed with bipolar till 2020. One More Light came out, I think, in 2017. And it is a mental health album. Like, you listen to it and you're like, is this guy crying out for help? Like, and then within like a year, Chester's dead.
Yeah.
And took his own life and, you know, died by suicide. Yeah. So, you know, we don't always win. Sometimes mental health wins, right? Unfortunately. And in that case it did. And I was like so heartbroken by that. And I didn't fully understand why. And I remember for like a month, people would see me and they're like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm still devastated. Like, I would legit tell people I am still devastated that Chester Bennington is dead. I've never met the guy in my life.
Right.
But like, for some reason, I just really connected with his part of the music more than anything. And so then I get diagnosed in 2020 and like my kids love that album. They loved the One More Light album. Cause a lot of them, like, they were like 5, 6, 7 when it was on. And so like they're listening to it. They just love it. They think it's great. And I couldn't listen to it cause I was hearing all like the darkness of it. And I was just like, man alive. And so like I intentionally like shut myself off from all Linkin Park music until this spring. And then From Zero came out and I was like, what is going on? And Emily Armstrong's voice, I'm like, who is this? Like, this is incredible. And it's different, but it's the same. And like, I just love it. So I was listening to From Zero, the whole album, and then like the deluxe came out, and like Up From the Bottom, which is such a good song, came out, and again, like very relatable, and all these things. And at some point, I was just like, I need to move past like how I felt about that, and like this is such a good thing for me. Like this gives me joy to hear this band again. I need to stop like intentionally shutting out joy in this small area of my life, right? This is very stupid on the big scale of things, right? This is so stupid. It's like, but I just think about how many times in our lives, like we go through something that's kind of hard or traumatic, or like we go through a change, we just totally shut ourselves off to like everything associated with that. We talked earlier about like all these dudes texting me about, I went through a divorce, you know, and like, and I'm guessing there were good things in your life that you associate with that person or with your kids, and so you just fully shut off the faucet completely. And you shouldn't. Like, you got to be able to move past that and find that joy again. And so like, you know, we talked last year when we were here about like Fridays we listen to Taylor Swift in my classroom. Guess what we listen to now on Thursdays? We listen to Linkin Park. Because there's a lot in there. And sometimes the kids are like, man, you know, like if a Hybrid Theory song comes on, they're like, he sounds angry. And I'm like, sometimes there's things worth being angry about, you know, like, and then other times they're like, man, this is really good, Mr. Peter. And I'm like, yeah, it's really good. And so like, for me, it was just, I had continually shut this off in my life for so long, and it was time to open it back up. And I'm so happy that I did. And like, it just brings me so much joy. Like the whole catalog, even some of those 2010 albums that were just garbage, like I find joy in a lot of it now.
Yeah, but if you told 18-year-old you that like, hey, 20 years from now, there's a new album.
Yeah.
You take it. You take it 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So that, which like any kid, like there's not that many artists that do that.
Yeah.
Like you can look at the Elton Johns and like they're like releasing remastered albums.
Yeah.
But it's so few that last a long time.
So if we're going to stick with the music, because it's a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So I think it's like what's on the playlist.
Right. Yeah. What's on the playlist?
Yeah. What do you listen to on the bike? We kind of talked about that already.
Yep.
Okay. Then it's the karaoke song.
Yes.
Okay. And I think now this is like so specific to the community I live in, right? For me, like half our population in the town that we grew up in and that I live in is Hispanic. And so the most fun songs for me, like this is in our soccer pregame, we intentionally put stuff in that's kind of ridiculous and that we know is going to kind of like
mental games.
Like if the other team knew what's being sung right now, they might not be so appreciative. My favorite song that we play is called El Envidioso, which is like about someone who's envious of someone else. And it's like so amazing. And then the other song that I would sing is I think it's called La Chona. It's about this lady who just like goes out through the nightlife. And I asked the students on a test recently. This is what you get if you're in middle school social studies with me. You get
everything's optional.
Yeah, but it's extra credit, right?
If we talk about it, it might be there.
Yeah, we do talk about that. But I asked them a question the other day on the test. These were their extra credit 2 points. Normally, I'm more tricky with this. But I just said, what's your favorite song? And what would be your song of choice if we had classroom karaoke? And I have criteria. And I also think it's funny that I asked this question. I've never done karaoke in my life. As is witnessed by the fact that the first time I asked it to the Holy Spirit of karaoke, and I got crushed in the comments, including previous guests who were like, we're all waiting to see if he's serious or not with that pronunciation. But I told the kids, to me, a good karaoke song does one of two things. Either everybody in the crowd who is singing along with you. I didn't say to my 8th graders, they're all holding their red cups singing along. But in my head, like, that's what's going on. Yeah. But I didn't say that to the kids. Or they are so stoked on what you're doing and the craziness, they're just cheering you on, right?
Yeah,
Those are the two criteria. If it's one of those two is going to happen, so like Justin McQuerry saying, I'm going to sing The Man from Waco. Fantastic, my friend, because when they get to the part where they play the trumpets in it and it's so strange, we know you're going to do something dumb and we're all going to cheer for you, right? So, and like when Brett Rothmeyer's like, I'm probably going to sing Champagne Supernova by... by Oasis.
Good.
I'm like, hell yeah, and everybody
we're
else,
all singing.
everybody's singing, right? So it checks the boxes. Okay, so that's why La Chona or El Invidioso, you might not be able to sing along with it, but people would definitely be cheering me on for sure. So that's where I land with those
for your karaoke.
song. Amanda Sheik is still upset about how I pronounced it.
That's so good. Okay, are you a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings guy?
So, I think I'm a Harry Potter guy. Like, growing up, I was 100% Lord of the Rings, but partly that's because I was kind of...
You're an anti-guy, though. You like to push back against the movement.
I gotta be really careful how I say this. I grew up in a church that was very anti-Harry Potter.
Yes.
That's all I will say. And I really like Harry Potter. I really like the arc of like good versus evil and like,
man, it's incredible story.
Like everybody's redeemable and as I think Hannah Shell pointed out, she's like, the ending with the Slytherin, there's like some redemptive things in there.
There are.
And of course I always ask people if they say Harry Potter, then I'm like, well, what? Yeah, what house? And so this kind of started as a joke. My kids always say that I would be Ravenclaw.
Sure.
Because like I'm not a goody Gryffindor, but I'm a little edgy, but I'm still pretty nice. Sure. And a lot of the guests, especially if they know me, they're like, "You're like Tilly Shull. You're way too nice to be a Slytherin." Okay. But I look at the world through very, like you said, very anti-eyes, always. And the best story I can tell that sums this up is I was in college. I was in an attendance cheating scandal in a class that I believe we were on the verge of getting expelled from, and I was the ringleader. So
the statute of limitations hopefully is gone.
Yeah, well, we took the high road in the end, but so I suppose I need to tell this story in full.
Could you still get away with this? Like, is this a lack of technology thing?
Yeah, I don't know. So, in college, I was an elementary ed major. We had to take this elementary music class, but it wasn't even like the elementary music class I got to take where we would play recorder and do all the stuff. It was like being a kid again. That was great. This was like the history of music or like interpretation. It was awful. We had to listen to like Frank Zappa just sitting on a stage doing nothing. And then the teacher would talk to us about how artistic this was. And we were like, what the hell are you talking about? So we also had a professor who never looked at us. I swear she never looked at us. Oh. And so and I have to give an example by looking at the camera here. So when she would talk to us, she would talk with big gestures and her eyes were always closed. And then when she would need to take a breath, she would look off into the corners of the room, and the students are all down here. So she'd look up here and then quickly close her eyes again and look down at us and start teaching. She never looked at us once.
She's asking for it.
And it is this awful class. So there were 4 of us in the class who were good friends. One of them lived across the hall from me in the dorm. And I don't remember what his name was. I know that he was from he was like Dilworth or somebody around here, right? And then there were 2 girls who I knew as well, who from the elementary ed program. We're all in there together. And finally I turned to them one day. I'm like, this lady has no idea that we're here. This lady has no idea that we're here. I don't think we need to be here every day. And they're like, yeah, but she's taking attendance every day. I'm like, then sign in for each other.
Right.
Me and Jesse will come on Tuesdays, and you 2 come on Thursdays and write each other's name. So we go through the whole semester, right?
How long? Like, is this the last 3 weeks, or is this?
No, this is in September of a fall.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go
14 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to my dorm every day and take a nap before I go run at track practice, right, or cross country practice.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna use my time. You guys use it however you want, but, and I also come from a very musical family, right? Like sister majored in college before she became a doctor. My dad is a music teacher for life. Like I have a long history. At that point, I didn't, but I have a long history in music stuff. So this was not a hard class for me to show up one day a week and do well in. And we get to the end of the year, and it's the very last day of class. And as we're wrapping up, the lady says, I need to see names off our 4 names. And I'm just like, oh no. I already know where this is going to go, right? And like maybe this doesn't make me Slytherin at all, but she takes us back into like the music office area. And she says to us, still not looking at us, she's like, there have been some anomalies in your signatures. And she pulls out all the papers and sets them down. This is the most off the rails section of this podcast we've ever had.
I love this.
She sets down the papers and she's like, here's what's going to happen. She's like, if you admit to it, I will drop your letter grade by 1 letter. And if you say that you didn't do this, we will be heading to the dean. And she did not get the full word dean out. And I slapped the counter and I said, we did it. Drop our grades. And everybody looked at me and I was just like, yeah, we did it. Yep. And we turned around and walked out. And that's why I have a C on my transcript for that class instead of a B, or a B instead of an A. I don't remember.
18 years. I've never heard that.
What?
I had never heard that story.
You never heard me tell that.
That's so good.
Yeah. That's so when people are like, you're not Slytherin, I'm like, am I not? I always have schemes like that in my head. I just don't usually execute them.
Well, and those who have, there's no spoilers. The books are 25 years old. Like Harry could have been Slytherin. So like all of us have multiple.
Yes.
So okay, you can claim the green if you want to claim the green. I think it's in there. Okay. A race that you went to this year that you really wanted to go to.
Unbound. That's the list. I mean, I went to a lot of races.
Yeah.
All over the place. Obviously, I wanted to get back to the Mater 100 and do it myself. There's all these regional races around the state. You know, I got to do a bunch of chases, races in the series. Those are fun. But I had wanted to get to Unbound. And I made a video about this, how like I had this bucket list of races and I never had gotten to any of them. And then I crossed them all out this summer and none of them were like, I wasn't racing at a single one of them.
Right.
I was just there, like getting to experience it. And I would guess that that will be my experience the rest of my life. Because I was having a conversation with Chase the other day and I said, we were talking about if I was going to race Mid-South or not, since it's not on the same day as the pros now. So I can like go film the pros, then I could race the next day, which is what a lot of the media people are doing. And I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm too scared. I don't feel like I have any head hits left before this is done. Like as anything other than riding a trainer at that point. Yeah. And so the idea of riding in a gravel pack with anyone is very scary for me. And so, being at Unbound, just getting to see it, you know, being like, this is so dumb. Like literally I was thinking specifically, my highlight this year was standing on Little Egypt in Unbound, which is like the most mundane 2-track road. But I got to stand there. I met Brett Rothmeyer. We talked for like an hour. I didn't know who he was from Adam. I didn't know like, oh, you're Keegan's photographer. Like he didn't drop that until like 45 minutes into the conversation. We were just talking like about life. And that to me is like the highlight moment as I'm on Little Egypt. Like I'm in Unbound on Little Egypt. Like what? Like filming the pros. This is crazy. So that's, for me, that's a race that I like was really special.
And expectations are tough. Did it exceed expectations, meet, or did it underwhelm?
Oh, I think it exceeded because like I wasn't having to be cracked at the finish line afterwards. Like, I mean, Logan and I were pretty clapped by the end of the day, but it wasn't like all the guys like slithering back to the house to try and like breathe life back into them. So it is truly like the Super Bowl. I encourage people to go there and just experience it, even if you're not going to race, because it's such a gathering of like all the people like us that are kind of weird and feel like weirdos out here in the middle of nowhere doing this.
Right. Okay. The place or race that you want to go to, the dream that you want to go to.
I mean, ultimately the dream, Derek and I raced the 100, Monte 100 this year.
Yeah.
Derek and I have talked about racing the Great Divide someday, or the Tour Divide, or whatever people have different names and they get all hot and bothered about if you use the right one or not. But everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Banff to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, 3,000 miles. But we've also said, like, that's like, we have children right now, and we don't want to
wait 20 years,
15, 20 years, like, it's not in the cards right now, but it's a race that I think about a lot, and not even a race, just like an adventure. Like, I teach geography now, and like, we literally talked about it today in class because the kids were learning about the Rocky Mountains and the whole, the Cordilleras of the Rocky Mountains. And I was like, let me show you this cool trail. And like, it's just enchanting. Just like the Madehe has kind of enchanted me. So,
yeah. And you didn't go for the classic Iceland answer.
No. I mean, I think I'm going to Iceland this coming year. It would look like. I'm excited to go to Leadville. Not that I want to race Leadville ever, but I want to go there and just like see the sights. And I'll get to do that as a part of filming. I'm excited to go to Sea Otter this year and be in California and see because I'm kind of a race geek, like see the Laguna Seca racetrack that it's on, but also just be out in that area of California. And so I'm equally I'm excited to go to the wind tunnel in Indianapolis.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that, I think we said earlier off camera, like, this is very life-giving, this kind of stuff I'm doing, and the opportunities I'm getting to have, like, it fills me up and it gives me a lot of joy, and I get to do some of my favorite work and build relationships with people in the process. So it's pretty amazing.
I think it's interesting you brought up Leadville, and like my first ever back roads race, gravel, it's not any, now there's 10 miles of gravel, but was Madehe. And I was like the winners are 9-ish hours, 10 hours. And at some point, I don't know if it was after we had talked to Trey or when it was, and I had looked at Leadville results, and I was like, it's like a 5 or 6 hour race. That's not that hard. Like, what do these people do? Like, it just gets built up so high. And as just an absolute novice, I'm like, what are they doing? Like, if they think this is hard, they got to come out here. And so maybe they will. We'll see.
Aaron has triggered everyone who's still listening and watching, but all good. Yep. No, this has been good, man. It's been a great year. I believe for the year, we're right around 150,000 downloads, which is insane to think about for a niche within a niche podcast. But I am truly thankful for all of you out there who are listening and watching every week and sharing it, because it is impacting a lot of lives. It is a very exciting 2026 on tap. I believe I'm scheduled out right now through March, which is fun. And as I said, a lot of sponsors coming on board too to support what we're doing, so we can bring you this not most of the time every week, but all of the time every week, as well as some emergency episodes. So Aaron, thanks so much for hanging out and co-hosting tonight.
Thank you. This was fun.
And you heard the great story, the great Slytherin story now.
Congratulations to all the winners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, special thanks too again for Flow Formulas for supporting everything this year and moving forward. And I hope you do have a great holiday season into the new year. And more than anything, obviously, I hope you remember that you are loved.